Welcome to the Full Circle podcast. I'm Kai, and in this series, I will be having deep conversations about life cycles. From feeling lost and rising from the ashes, we talk about tough times that challenge us and wonderful moments that shape who we are. Join me as I chat with inspiring individuals who have not only inspired me, but also continue to inspire others by sharing their stories of resilience, recovery, joy, and discovery. This is the Full Circle podcast. Let's explore life's beautiful complexities together, celebrate the highs, learn from the lows, and enjoy everything in between. So, Liam Willers, Sean Willers, welcome to my brand new podcast, Full Circle. It's great to have you boys here.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, mate.
Thanks for having us on.
You're looking very relaxed, mate.
Yeah, as always, mate. It's kind of my style.
So, yeah, this is my first ever podcast. I've been asked to go on quite a few recently, and I've kind of knocked them all back. And I thought, do you know what? Why don't I start a podcast and bring on people that have been part of my journey over the last 10, 15 years, people that have inspired me, people that have inspiring other people. And I had a long list of people. I was thinking, who can I get on for the first one? Thinking all these big names. I thought, up these big names. Let's get real people on that have got real stories that will have a real kind of positive impact, hopefully on the people that are watching this. So I guess I'm talking about my followers here. So Liam, Sean, first of all, I would like you to introduce yourself, tell the guys who you are, where you're from, what you used to do, what you're doing now, and then we can go way back to where it all started before it got well out of control.
Want to go first, Dom?
Oh, go on, yeah. So where am I starting from? What am I doing now?
What were you doing?
What were
How
we
did
doing?
we meet?
So me and Liam were DJs for 8 years. We were residents at Egg nightclub in London, and this is when we first heard about you, when you were doing the abode parties. Funny story for this, actually. Remember when we worked in the office at Egg, and I remember the first time you did that lineup, and there was absolute panic everywhere, all over the office, because they knew that it meant that they were going to lose a lot of customers. Anyway, we ended up moving to Berlin for 4 years, DJing there. Went to Watergate Agency first, then no doubt we'll come into this, and then ended up at PIV, and then COVID hit. We decided that we were going to move back to England, and we moved back in July 2021. Still, we're going to take on the DJ, and Liam sort of didn't want to. Ended up leaving the industry through like drink and drug related reasons, and then started Willers Fitness, which has now turned into a worldwide online fitness business, working for people not just in the music industry, but people who are looking to improve their life, get sober, stop partying, stop taking drugs all the time, and transform their body. That is sort of where we're at now in a
Yeah, and if anyone didn't pick up that, we're actually brothers, the Willers brothers we were called. We were DJs from Macclesfield originally. But yeah, as Sean said, we moved to the city in London, and tried to progress on our DJ career, which went well for quite some years, until really the drink and drugs got a hold of us, and that kind of broke everything down, broke down the relationship we had with each other, and just broke down relationship we had pretty much with everyone and everything in the industry. And we suffered with a massive cocaine problem and a massive drink problem, to the extent where when we were in Berlin, I would come to the studio and Sean had been up for 3 days, and I'd be like, oh, have you made any tunes? He'd be like, no. I'd be like, so what the fuck have you been doing?
So just taking it back now to the DJ, and I remember when we launched Abode in 2014, that was my first, it wasn't my first event, but it was my first kind of opportunity to put on large scale events in London.
Yeah.
What were you both doing before you stepped into the DJ world? Because Macclesfield, I'm not great, I've never been to Macclesfield. Whereabouts is Macclesfield on the
missing
map?
out, mate. Fucking hell.
So we were brought up in Macclesfield, but Sean was a bit of like a horror child.
It's such a broad question, isn't it?
Because we had both two totally different.
Yeah.
We kind of separated for quite a lot of years until we met back up. I mean, Sean's story's a little bit more interesting than mine, with his military background. Mine was very much I was just working, just coasting through life, working shitty jobs, and then I moved to my dad in Essex, and I was just partying every weekend. I'm a massive drum and bass fan, going to drum and bass raves constantly. That was a big drum and bass fan. Like, that was my thing, you know. I was going to, you know, Skibbity's birthday bash at the Coliseum, and I loved it, you know.
But this was at what age?
This was about from around. I moved to my dad. My dad's in Essex when I was 17, till around, you know, I was in the drum and bass.
Well, it's when you was 18. That's when you turned 18. That's when we sort of just become best mates from that point.
But
like,
Sean was living separate to me. He actually moved out from my mum's a lot younger. If you want to kind of touch on that.
So I was a fucking trouble child. Like me and my mum, we get along. So we're so tight as a family now, aren't we? Like we all get along.
When you say troubled child,
I was just a cunt.
Yeah,
to everyone.
Not that, but I think you started drinking at a very
young
age.
14.
Like 14, you were in the pubs, and like he was just.
What was that pub called? The Evening Star, isn't it?
Mate, and it just didn't. It never got better. Let's say with you drinking.
No, surprisingly.
It started like you were a terror drunk from the start. Mate, and that with my mum being a bit of a pisshead as well.
Mum. So when I was younger, for some reason I hated authority. I hated anyone telling me what to do, like with a passion. Like at school, it wasn't I was unintellectual, although maybe in the comments people are going to question that right now. But I was quite intelligent at school, but I hated anyone telling me what to do. And then when I was younger, I started drinking as well. And just not going into school at all. My mum, you know, my dad left. And again, no disrespect to my dad now because we're all really close, but he left my mum. She, you know, there was four boys.
There's a lot of resentment for that as well.
Exactly.
With dad leaving at a young age, you like to blame a lot of things.
Exactly. And then I started drinking, and my mum has problems with drink as well. She's had her own struggles with that, and me just not going into school, her with like financial and drinking, you know, pressures that, you know, a lot of people go through. It didn't work well. And then when I was 15, I moved out of my mum's and moved into a hostel. I got kicked out of a hostel when I was 15 years old. So I stopped going to school. I didn't do one day in year 11, and I went to a work placement, and I was living in a hostel. And this kid, I was selling a little bit of weed. And this kid owed me, I don't think I've ever come out and told this, but this kid owed me £5, yeah? And when I come back from the work placement, I chased him up the stairs, and he locked himself in his room, and I got a can of light fluid, and I was spraying it under his door. Yeah,
like a normal thing.
Like a normal 15-year-old would do. Do you know what I mean? Like, no wonder my mum, you know, loved me so much back then. And then I went back to work, to this work placement. It was an exhaust manufacturer, and they come with all my bags. And they were like, no, we can't have you here. So I was fucked. I was like homeless. Like, my mum couldn't have me back because obviously she's got 3 other kids to look after. You know, she's going through her own struggles as well in life, which obviously at the time I didn't understand because I'm a fucking 15-year-old little shit. And I had to move in with this guy called Mark, and he was a functioning heroin addict. So he would smoke heroin, but then he would you know,
in
work.
Front of you.
Yeah. So what happened is he would be he worked as an exhaust manufacturer. And then he would smoke heroin at night, and he had like his own journey. His brother was a heroin addict. It was crazy. But anyway, when I got there, like when they come to bring my stuff in and say, look, you know, we kicked out, I was homeless. So I stayed rough for quite a bit. And then he was like, look, you can come and stay with me. So he lived outside of Macclesfield, and he used to have to wait for his dad to pick him up. And we used to go to his brother's, and him and his brother would smoke heroin in front of me at like 15 years old. I was like, fuck me, man. I was thinking, is this my life?
And who knew this was going on at the time?
No,
Did mum?
No, I didn't speak to anyone about this.
Because there's you two as brothers. And
there's another two.
Another two. Yeah. And how old are they?
Wait there. Where's my phone?
Late 20s. Yeah.
I was like 27 now. When I see him, I always just see him as like a 10-year-old.
I think Ben's 29 and Paul's like 27.
And I guess now they're looking up to you as big brothers.
We're all super tight.
We're really tight now, but I think like we have been for quite a few years now. I think, especially since Sean got sober. I think that was a massive changing point for everyone. And since my mum's got sober as well.
So going back to, you started DJing. Obviously, I hear that quite a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, people just don't start DJing, move to London. What was the transition of how did you get into the music and then just buying a set of decks? Because how I knew about you when I lived in London and started doing parties, you guys were quite cool and underground.
Yeah.
Cool,
You were
I like
releasing
that.
on, made one of the first releases on PIV, which is
Yeah.
now one of the biggest
Yeah,
kind of parties in the
we did
world.
their first vinyl.
So I think a lot of people won't even know that from my followers know that you released on PIV.
Well, that's what, going from that story, Sean actually moved in with my granddad, and then he joined the military.
Yeah.
And when he come out of the military, that's when we got really close.
Yeah,
You know, he served, what was it, 4 years?
4 years.
And what age did you join up the military?
20.
20.
So, I mean, like, obviously you're ex-military.
Course, yeah.
I always say this, from 18 to 20, I had no idea what I wanted to do in my life. Like, I was found fitness a little bit.
I
and
think
I was
Grandad was
lost.
a big influence for you, though.
Massive,
like
massive.
him and my Grandad were really close, and that gave you another perspective on life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which you never had before, and you kind of trusted what he said. You took his authority, as you'd never done that with anyone else.
Exactly that. And I think this is the strange thing, just what I was going to circle back to, is that when I was a kid, I hated authority, and then I chose to join the military, and that just changed everything. Then me and Liam got really close. When I left the military...
Well, I had a methadone problem, MCAT.
Remember when I come back from Afghan?
Yeah. And I stopped getting contact with Sean, so Sean was like, look, when I leave the military, I'm going to come and move down to Essex with you, because I was fucking bad, mate.
Yeah.
I was like,
This must have been around 2012, 2011.
just before. I think it was more like 2010.
Yeah,
that's when I come back from Afghan.
Yeah. And then he moved in with me because my methadone problem was bad, and I was living with Chris Bush, who's now killed himself.
And for people that don't know about methadone, what is it?
Like a legal high. It's still quite big, I think, in like the Berlin scene and that. Meow Meow, there's loads of names for it, but it was legal at the time, so everyone was on it. Plant food, yeah. And I was just smashing through, like, I was staying up like 3-4 days, and Sean was like, right, like, you know, we need to.
Well, so I'd done six months in Afghan, never heard of NCAT. Come back, yeah. I remember because I used to get, like, you know, when you're away on tour, you get a certain time you can ring, and Liam was always the first person I'd ring.
I wouldn't answer,
and I was like, what the fuck's going on? I'd come back, and everyone's doing this stuff that smelled like piss, and I was like, "What is
to CPAP?"
Yeah, I was like, "What the fuck, man?" I was only waiting 6 months.
Like, I'm going to come and move in with you then. So I was like, "Right, sweet." You know what I mean? Like,
so was that to go and help him? You knew he was banging
so. It was like, because we were getting close, and he could see me sort of like deteriorating into that sort of lifestyle. So he was like, look, when I get back, I'll move down to Essex with you, and we'll fucking, you know. But then when he moved down, mate, then it went kind of tits up then, because then we just started partying together and really smashing a load of gear and like going out. We were like lager louts, mate. We're going out brawling and that, and then we got in a little bit of trouble, yeah. And then, like, we were going to a lot of after parties, and Ross Boringer, this is how the DJ started. Like, I was always big on drum and bass, but he was into house, yeah. And then I remember he was into Eric Morillo. I remember he's like, yeah, listen to this. And at first I was like, no, I'm drum and bass, strictly drum and bass. And I remember I sat on the boss once, I was like, hey, mate, this ain't bad, man. I was like, you know, grooving around to it, listening to his mixes. And I think it was like Carl Cox at Space Closing. And I was like, hey, mate, that house, it ain't bad, man. It's all right. And then Ross Boringer, wasn't it?
Yeah,
going
Rossi
to like
B.
all the parties. Southend had quite a good little scene, didn't it, of house music. With like Danny Quattro, Pierre Codrin. We were going to them, and Ross Boringer was in that scene, and we'd always after party at his, and he had a set of decks there. And I remember we started playing them one day. I was like, hey, mate, this is actually all right. And then we bought the new marks, mate. That's just when it all started. We got.
So what year did you move to London and take... so to talk about the transition from being unemployed working to them becoming full-time DJs where you're actually making a living from it.
Yeah, so we did like a DJ comp first, didn't we?
Yeah, that was it, at Fire.
It was at Fire. It was like on a Wednesday anyway, and we were like, yeah, let's do this like DJ comp.
And Tim Cullen was there. He was... was it?
I can't remember. Yeah. Anyway, we went, a load of friends come, but what we didn't know at the time, because we didn't understand the industry, is they basically wanted DJs to come and sell tickets, but the basically whoever won the competition got to play at Egg in the loft on a Friday night, but then you had to sell tickets. So we went, and he rang us up the next day. He's like, look guys, you know, if you want, you come and play at Egg on the Friday, you've got to sell tickets, you know. And he used to do like, so for
anyone at home that doesn't know what this means, just break it down to how it used to be.
In the industry, right? Basically, like, especially in London, what used to happen, I don't know if it still does.
No,
now.
they stopped it now.
Yeah,
There's a few shit parties.
But you used to basically, unless you had a track out or you was a name, to get into the scene, you had to fucking
graft.
You had to sell tickets basically, and you'd nick like £5 per ticket. Obviously, the more tickets you sell for that night, the more likely you are to be able, to get booked. And we played that Friday, and I think we sold all 50 tickets, didn't we? And we at the time we had like it was quite a cool sound. It was a little different to what everyone else was playing.
Because we got into Marco Carola quite early when he was really playing cool, like the more minimal, like when Luciano was sick, and we were like, actually, this is quite nice music. We kind of, when everyone was playing that sort of
Vagabondos,
everyone was playing that sort of Jack in Tech House, and we were going more that sort of minimal route.
But I think that's because we had like an interest in music prior to that. Do you know what I mean? It's not like we didn't set out and think we want to be DJs. I didn't even think that was possible. We just fucking loved getting on it and playing. Like that was basically it at the moment. And then when we got to play Egg, it was sick. And then they asked us to come back again at New Year's Eve. And what happened? We sold another 50 tickets, but then 2 guys didn't turn up. So we ended up playing a 3-hour set. And one of the promoters who worked at Egg see us play. And then that was it. Then we would just we would go down to Egg every Friday, Saturday. You get from Southend. Nah, where we fucked, man.
No, it was all the tickets. But even if we didn't sell enough tickets, we'd put our own money into it to boost it up. So then we'd get another gig. But through doing that, through turning up all the time, we'd go to Egg. We'd stay till the end. We'd chat to absolutely everyone.
You would? Remember in the garden, mate?
Oh, mate, I'd just be chatting, and then I'd be like, I've got this promoter's number, that pro, and then we'd be texting them all week, and then they'd be like, yeah, you can, because then you'd get the room, you get like the basement or the apartment. It
wasn't that, I remember, because at the time I was working in fitness. When I come out of the military, I worked in the fitness industry as a PT, and then I worked at Southend University. And basically what we do is we'd go out, get completely fucked up at Egg, Friday, Saturday, come back. Liam would have all these numbers and emails. I'd spend all my time at the gym, just emailing, messaging all these people, and then
pissing people off on
it. Probably you, like,
I don't think we got on. I think
we're gonna get to that. Don't worry, mate. We'll get to that. Right? We're talking about this, right? Anyway, so it got to a point where we were getting known, and Hans, who works at Egg, he basically said to us, look, if you want to make this happen, you've got to move to London, because we were travelling from Southend, and my boss at the same time said, look, Sean, you can't just be coming in here on a Monday stinking of shit and then spending all the time messaging people your new DJ mix. So you got to make a choice. So we were like, fuck it. So I was like, Liam, go and have a look for a place, right, in London, mate, right? Go and have a look. So he's like, I'm on it, Sean. So he sorted it. He's all I knew.
I was like, mate, don't worry. Everything fucking sorted, mate.
And I was like,
squared
nice
away,
one.
and he was like, oh, Liam's proper done it. So he was like, yeah, mate, the funny thing is, when we moved, man, we did a because we used to always do after parties at our place. Mate, we did a massive 2-day final house party, mate, and we had a big rock of MDMA here. We was all gurney. And Sean comes running in, he goes, Todd's dad's here. I was like, what? He's like, he's here with the van to move the stuff. I was like, still about 30 heads in the house. I was like, oh shit, man! I was like, Gurney, man.
We're like 26 or 7 years old here. It's not where we're like 60.
We were a bit younger than that.
25. I was 20. I must have been 25 because I come out of the military 24.
Yeah, mate, but there was like a lot of heads in the house, and Todd's dad was there, and I was like, proper good. I was like, oh, mate, fuck, we haven't packed anything. It was like, right, throw it in the van. I was like, don't worry, Sean, when we get there, I've squared it away. He didn't know what I was going into, mate.
So we pulled up this van. We put a 2-bed apartment. We got one bird in the front with me, one in the back with Liam, going out of bed with my mate's dad in the front. Yeah, he doesn't have a clue what's going on. He just thought we were going to turn up all night. Yeah. Dropped us off to this apartment in Brick Lane. Yeah, it's not an apartment. It's a fucking a single room with 2 single beds in. Yeah, in a house. Yeah, with about 8 other people in. Right. So me and Liam have got to cram all this stuff in. Yeah, to this room.
2-bed flat. 2-bed flat. Yeah. Still fucked on MDMA, like absolutely going in my head off. Sean hadn't even seen it yet, so I was like, mate, surprise. And it's like a small double room with 2 single beds, and we had to get a whole 2-bedroom flat in there.
It was like piled up, mate. We had decks and everything like that.
I was like, Sean, you may have squared this away. And it was like sharing a house with, I think it was like 6 other people with 1 bathroom.
So this when you moved to Brick Lane, which back then I guess was the fucking when it was.
It was exciting.
It was.
Like, regardless of the apartment, like now, if we'd done that, we wouldn't even be able to comprehend it. But at the time, we were like, "You're buzzing, we're living in London."
So when the jobs you were doing, so because there's going to be a lot of DJs, up and coming DJs and DJs, listen to this. Before you become full-time DJs, what were you doing at Brick Lane in that area to make your money to pay your rent?
I was actually working at Bodine's in the bar.
I didn't do
No,
fuck
he
all,
didn't do
I
fuck
did
all.
fuck all.
We did flyering for Johnny.
Yeah, yeah.
For the Ribbon Factory, loads of flyering, and yeah, just the ticket selling, mate. We would just smash the ticket selling
we
every
were
week.
scraping
But back then there
by.
was some DJs. I remember like Jesse James Connected. He was big on it. Some of these kids were selling like 300 tickets.
You can
so
make
making
it
like a good drink.
Yeah, we were making enough, and that's when we started working with like Ali B at Egg.
Yeah,
and that's when we started making, and Dara. That's when we started actually getting a bit of a structure to it, and really started doing well, getting DJs that we knew were consistent with it, and then we started making a little bit more money. And that's when Egg said, "Look, we want you to come and work within the club in the office."
But just on that, Kat, that's one thing that we did completely wrong, is that we had like no financial backing at all, and at the time as well, we were doing loads of gear, so all the money we were getting was going on rent. A bit of like I can't even remember Brick Lane bagels.
And that's what I would say to an upcoming DJ: if you're getting into DJing and associating it with partying, then don't look at that as a career, because if you're having that as like an upcoming DJ, I'm loving it, I'm doing all right, but you're sniffing in, you're partying every week, because it will come to an abrupt end, and that end will be much sooner than you expect. People don't understand that. They just think, you're riding the high times, but that time doesn't last.
Yeah,
right?
see,
it only gets worse and worse and worse.
I mean, there's some DJs from that era when I first met you that were like dominating the scene, that had big coke problems, they disappeared off the face of the earth now. These DJs that are earning like £5 a set, and they're not even on Instagram anymore.
Because it doesn't last. And then the thing is, the more money you earn, then you just live to your needs. So when it does all come to an end, which it will, like, you're fucked, because you're not earning that money anymore. People don't want to book you, and then you're screwed. Because one thing I learned with DJing is, the longer you're a DJ, the less employable you become when you come out of that. Do you know what I mean? Because you're not learning skill. Going to, what was a shock to me, going to employers like, "Oh, I've been a DJ for 8 years." They were like, "Yeah, what has you been a cokehead for?" Fuck off, right? You know what I mean? You have no skills. You've lost all your skills. Do you know what I mean? It's a long period.
And there's some DJs out there now that have been doing it 15, 20 years.
And
that's what, like, I'm not going to say any names, but there's certain DJs.
No, we don't mention any names.
No, but there is certain DJs that are fucked now, mate, and they've got to go back to the basics, working shit ass jobs.
But this is the thing, though. This is what I was saying, is that you think when you are an up and coming DJ, like, having that security from work is important, mainly just for the structure, because like the fact we're sat here doing a podcast with you in Ibiza 8 years ago, there's no way, when we first started playing at Egg, there's no way we would have thought that was even possible. Do you know what I mean? And our careers only ended because of the drink and the drug use. But if you're an up and coming artist, if you can get your shit together with your routine and focus a little bit on your health and fitness, the potential to be a success is achievable.
So where do you think you would have been now if you would have been in this headspace 8 years ago as DJ? So you could have mixed, if you could have mixed the two together. So you're in this headspace, you're sober, you're a quality DJ, you had a good agency. Where do you think you'd be now?
This is, I want to answer this, because we've got a set of decks at home, and we don't touch them. I think that the reason why leaving the scene for us was a little easier is because we weren't really into the actual scene and DJing and like being a DJ. I think it was more the partying. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what we started partying and then started DJing, and it was more just playing whilst fucked. And we tried to play sober so many times, and what we realised is we just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, like the decks at home, we got dust on them.
We got them out.
But say, on the other hand to that, if we were in this headspace and we were fully into it, like how committed you are and we are with the brand now, with what we're doing now, mate, we'd be fucking flying, man.
You'd be like Martinez brothers,
but we'd be on point, because we'd have routine and structure, and I think that's why having a routine and structure, whether you're a DJ or not, even when you're our DJ, is much more important, because like people are going to blow smoke up your arse all weekend, but when it comes to Monday and that all comes down, it's time to start work again. You know what I mean? You need to be getting shit done. You need to be in the studio. You need to be having structure. You don't want to be just turning up at the airport fucked from the week before. You want to be ready. Do you know what I mean? Knowing, right, I've got this gig, I've got this gig. Planning your schedule, right? I want to get my fitness in. I want to get my meals in. This routine and structure is a game changer.
So again, just taking it back, so we're not kind of going off on dimensions. I want to know, like, you signed to some wicked agencies. I mean, and then obviously you moved to Berlin. When did you first get signed in London to your first agency, and how quick did that transition go from living in London, obviously moving to Berlin, which I think we're going to come to in a minute, which is think bailing is some of the funniest fucked up stuff you're going to talk about. But yeah, just talk about when you got signed to the agency, how that benefited your career, like what kind of gigs you got, what were you getting paid? How, and I know you two like have had fights like when you're behind a booth and you've got filled in on a gig, and yeah, these are the kind of things that I'm
you hear about them, yeah.
Yeah, but just talk about when it really blew up.
So
like,
I think
when you got signed.
It was like we didn't go in an agency. We were working for Egg basically. So we were like Egg main residents. Like
we're getting paid weekly wage from them.
Yeah, so we would get paid for the gigs and the weekly wage.
And then the tickets.
Yeah, so Egg sort of nurtured. We went from selling tickets to then running rooms to then employed by Egg to run, nights, not as promoters, but like running the rooms.
And resident DJ. I mean,
and then,
we were always warming up, like kind of music. We warmed up for them, 3 or 4 times?
Every time. And
like we were warming up for big.
And that's mad because everyone thinks Kai Music have just popped out the air.
We're talking like 10 years ago. We had them on Egg Radio.
Egg Radio. On Egg Radio. There's pictures of like on a 2D camera of Sean like coked off his head.
But that's how it transitioned. And what happened is that when we was with Egg, basically we only played like in London. We only played at Egg.
Like exclusive
for them. Because for us, we really got to develop our skills because we were doing a warm up so much. Like we got to develop our skills as DJ. We started to learn vinyl,
and we turn up like 2 hours before just to play on the sound system. So say we were playing at 11 till 1 or something, we'd be there from fucking 9, like just playing on the decks, like learning, going through all the tracks.
And we played.
I think that's when we were doing like our best sort of like DJ ability and skill wise, like because we were really, it was fresh. That's when we bought the Space Age EP out with We Are House. Like when we met Cynthia and built that relationship, that's when it started kicking off.
And that's when, so then we've played a few international gigs. There's a story I can go into now if you want about the Romania one.
Mate, that was one of the worst days of my life.
Yeah, well, fucking tell us, mate, because that's why we're really. I want to hear the juicy stuff.
We had a few international gigs, but this was one of the early ones, and it was with Otty. And I've told this story, I think, a few times, but I'm not sure in this much detail. Otty's a great guy, and I love that guy, and I still see him time to time speak to him. But he got us a gig in Romania, and this was the biggest gig we'd had to date. It was really good club, like 600 cap.
It was Alexandra playing before.
And she's like,
DJ.
She's on Sunrise Agency, and we were like, this is it. And we hadn't done too many international gigs prior to that. Obviously, we played Egg like hundreds of times. We're known for Egg at this point, and we get there. Anyway, start drinking.
Well, no, the thing is, as well, we'd never played without doing gear. So that would always level us out. And he's a bad drunk if he's just drinking. So we were like, "Oh, you got any sniff?" And he was like, "Nah."
And I'd already nailed like a bottle of vodka.
What, man, no sniff. And he was like doing the shots. I was like, I could see him changing. I was like, "Oh my fucking god, what the fuck?" And mate, it was the biggest shit show. We got kicked off the deck. He was playing the same track into each other, and everyone was like, get him off. And he was like, grabbing Alexander. He was like, swinging off everyone. I was like, oh my God, man. What is going on here, man? It was bad. And then he was like...
Yeah, and then we got in the cab and I was like...
mate. So the geese was like, look, you guys are going to have to...
I was kicking off on the bouncers.
Yeah. He was kicking, like, big fucking Romanian bouncers. He was like kicking off. I was like, man, no, please, no. And then he was like, all right, you've got to go. We're going to get you a cab, mate. And we were in the cab, on the way back. And Sean was like, I was in the back, and I was just like, fuck, man, I had my hood up. And he was that pissed that he forgot I was there. And he was like, my brother, mate, he's just fucked that whole gig up. He was going on the whole time. He's a fucking bad mate. My brother's really fucked it up. And I was just like, I let him do it for about an hour. And I was like, Sean, I'm here, mate. And he was like, oh fucking hell! I didn't know he was in there, mate. It was...
Well, the thing is about that, this is what I've come to. Now I'm sober, and my life is fantastic now. I'm loving it. It's never been better, right? Since I've stopped drinking and doing drugs. Like that's how clouded my judgment was through doing drugs, cocaine and drinking every weekend. That even that at that point in my career, when we were just coming through the ranks, we just played, got offered a fantastic gig through Otty, who was a friend. So not only was the complete lack of disrespect I had for him, But the fact that I didn't even see that as a red flag then, I was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, I felt sorry for
Blame
myself.
me, blame
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
blame it
exactly.
on me. That was
Did you
always-
get paid for the gig?
Nah.
No, I don't think we
Did you not?
Still
So
waiting
it
for that
cost you to
invoice.
go to
No,
Romania?
no, I think they paid the flight, but they
Did
didn't.
they?
Well, I think he was still trying to get the money.
Probably,
he was like,
man.
"Oh, you owe me that money." I was like, fuck off.
But you see, but that, you know, even at that point there, like in my career, like I should have seen that as a massive red flag and been like, look, this is, you know, I need to pack in the drink and drugs. But I was so heavily involved with that constant cycle that I didn't see it. And
But that only got worse.
Yeah,
as we
that's
went
it,
on.
yeah.
Well, I saw like let's go to Berlin now.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
so
this is
I've
where-
still got visions of you two with them stupid little Berlin moustaches.
Yeah.
Like, what was all that about?
is that when you blocked us?
Yeah. No, but when you moved there, I remember seeing, I thought they had proper turned Berlin.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell us about Berlin and what
Berlin was like through Symphy first. That's what we like. You went there, didn't you? with
I
your mate?
went there with a friend actually first, and I was like, this is unreal. And then we managed to get Diego Kraus and Ed and Symphy, who were part of this collective called Best of Modus, which we really like that sound.
Yeah.
And they come over, we after party, we had a great time, and then Symphy was like, look, come over to Berlin, see what it's
Start the
about.
record
Yeah.
label.
And then
We
we
Are House. That was the sick EP. That one.
Yeah, yeah.
Still like it now,
Yeah.
mate. Enzo was banging it. It's all the best tracks.
It was good, man. And then we played in Berlin, and then Symphy said, you know, it was sick. The gig that we played was unreal, and the scene over there was incredible.
Yeah, Grease Muller, she invited us
Yeah,
to
yeah.
play, and to be honest with you, like she gave us the best
Yeah, so-
opportunity of our career there.
Well, that's it. And then she said the same thing that Hans said. And I always remember that. She was like, look, if you want something to happen now, like you've got to move to Berlin. So me and Liam were like, sort of that same split decision. We were like, fuck it. Like at Egg, we'd sort of burned all the.
It was like it wasn't going well. Like Sean wasn't turning up in the office. He was like, just tell him I'm ill or busy, and like it was dying out. You know, it wasn't the sound we were going for either. So we were playing the warm up gigs, and they just were not the right sound,
No.
and it was just kind of getting a bit sour. So.
Yeah, so we decided to move, and then we started working with Symphy quite closely. She got us on.
to Symphy, for people that don't know, she's a big female
yeah,
DJ.
she's massive now. She's smashed it,
vinyl
man.
only, like really fucking
She's got-
on point, man. Like tunes are sick, like
Sick DJ,
doing
she.
it for years. Like
So
yeah,
she
like,
saw something in you.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
She was the one who got Toman through as well, weren't she?
She
She
brought
got Toman.
Toman. She was like a big influence in like you know, she gave us a massive opportunity.
Massive.
So you went out first.
Well, I went out for a gig, not for a gig. I went out for a few nights with a
And he
friend,
was
and
like,
then
yeah,
I come
sick.
back, told Liam, and then we went and played a gig.
And then Symphy paid for 6 nights?
Nights, yeah, so we
in
could
the
experience
hotel.
it.
So she was like, look, come and play the gig at Grease Muller, and then you can have like 6 nights there to see how it is. And then after that, we started going to all the Wednesdays at
Yeah, we were flying
just
over,
Flying in and out,
flying in and out.
And then Ed was like, Ed Herbs, super nice guy.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
actually met him the other week.
Yeah,
He was like, look, I've got an apartment. It's only got 3 months left on it, but if you guys want it, you can like move over.
and that's
And that was it. We
That
were
was
like,
it.
fuck it, pack the bags. Let's
So
go
were you
over.
did you go over to full-time DJ? How were you making
Yeah,
ends meet?
again, same.
Full-time DJ then, yeah.
Earning a good living, or
It was okay, but we was blowing it all on gear, mate. Yeah,
This
it
is
was
the-
going out the
it's funny
window.
that question, because at the time I always felt I was fucking broke, but the amount of gear that was sniffing,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
obviously
how much
where
were you sniffing in a week back then?
It was hard to say, you
Was
know.
it daily or?
Well, we were
I think
going
towards
out,
the
I think,
end.
4 days a week because it was Watergate Wednesdays all the time. I mean, I was taking partying to the extremes,
Yeah.
mate. Like, I remember on my birthday, I did 5 days, mate, from Wednesday to Sunday. I even was trying to go out Sunday, but I couldn't keep my eyes open because I discovered speed then when I went to Berlin. I was like, mate, it's like gear but cheaper. I was like, this is perfect. Staying up like for like 3-4 days on the trot, mate. I was loving it, man. Like, I proper got.
Fucking worse, come down. Though,
Yeah.
Or did you not come down?
Well, I just,
Well, you didn't for about 4 years.
yeah. But I just really took to it, mate. I was like, oh, this is perfect, man. I can just be a complete sort of druggie, and everyone loves it.
So what? So to talk about Berlin. So obviously I know
We
you're
had 2 different experiences in Berlin.
Yeah,
For
very
him, it was
different.
very dark. Like,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
was
dark
very-
because of the addiction.
Yeah, and just
yeah.
very. He didn't really blend in as well, and you know, we
Did you feel like you were trying to fit in?
No, I think the problem the first year was good.
yeah.
But then my addiction took. We fell out with Symphy
Yeah, we got-
because of drug use.
because we
And
got the thing is the first year we got we were having the sickest gigs. We got really tight with Andre Galuzzi. If anyone doesn't know who he is, he's like Panorama Bar resident, like vinyl only. We were playing on his party vinyl only at Watergate. It was
a bit dreamy, weren't it?
Oh
at that
mate,
point?
it was like honeymoon period. Everything was going well with Symphy.
We were like accepted into the Berlin scene as well,
and
which was really
Watergate
cool.
said, "Look, we want you to become residents and go on the agency with us," which was like fucking big for us. You know, Seb OK, we were really close with. We were working on an EP for him, and everything was just going like perfectly. Even like Ben Rao was like, "Look, we're going to do an EP together." But this is when it started to break down because the drug use, we started just disrespecting everyone. Symphy, like Ben Rao, we meant to meet him one day and we just stayed out in the party and just like, oh, fuck him. Like,
ego, man. My ego got so big. I mean, again, you know, through the drugs and that, like your ego your ego just gets so big, man.
And we thought anything that happened, it was everyone else's fault.
Never my fault, was it?
And we were like going, bear in mind, Watergate just took some as residents. We were turning up on a Wednesday, like staying till the end, expecting free drinks the whole night, just getting out.
So I've seen pictures of you from because obviously me and you we've become really close. Obviously Liam came into my life slightly later, and we were very, you know, I class some of my greatest friends now. But there's some pictures of you that I've seen online that you've shared, and I mean, I'll be up and honest, you look like a homeless person back then. And to look at you now, how amazing you look, and to look at them. How did you get to that stage where you look like that, mate?
Well, that was the big transition, wasn't it? That was like when everything, when COVID hit, that was a big thing for me. That was like a snap out of it moment, because it was like, give me a break from the bullshit of the fucking the social media, the worrying about the industry. Give me a break from it. And I was like, fuck, man, I'm not even that important. Like, DJ ain't even important. I was like, look, like no one cares. And for me, it was like a eureka moment. I was like, man, I needed this. I was like, fuck that, I'm out of it, mate. Like, I'd made my decision way earlier than you. Like, I was staple with it. I was like, don't need it. It's like I'm a better person without it. And it was the most refreshing thing, because I just thought, like, I don't need the validation of like I was well overweight, I was miserable, and I had a drug problem, but I thought I was on top of the world because I was a fucking DJ.
There was a lot of weed, wasn't it?
Mate, weed, coke, everything, and I was so irrelevant. That was the thing. And when, like, Sean, the thing is, Sean had started his journey first with fitness.
Yeah, a little bit, but we were talking about this earlier. If you didn't decide, because like this is the thing with what you did, was to be able to just say, this ain't serving me anymore with the music industry. Like, because I still wanted it.
You're done with it.
Liam was done with it. Like, I still wanted it. I was still like, even when I started my journey and I was doing the fitness thing, and I'd, you know, calm down my drugs a little bit, I still wanted to be a DJ. Like, and I think it was just the ego inside of me, because I didn't fucking enjoy DJing. Because when I tried to do it sober, it was boring. But Liam was like, no, like when in July when we moved back, we had 4 dates in New Zealand and 4 in Australia. I told Liam, he was like, I couldn't care less. I'm not doing it.
He was like, yeah, but it's Australia, man. I was like, I don't give a shit, mate. I was like, yeah, he was like, think of all the money we're going to go to Australia. I was like, yeah, but to DJ, bro. I was like, I do not care, mate. I was like,
incredible,
and then he like stormed off in Bournemouth. He was like, you're a dick. Like, I'm going to do it alone. And
I stormed off.
No, but I was like, yeah, you stormed.
I remember reading that you took a gig under the Willers brothers, but you didn't plan. You got filled in, didn't you?
Yeah, no, because then what happened is that when we sort of started this journey, like obviously we'd started a weight loss journey and stopping drugs, but then when we had already decided prior to where we are now that we were going to move back to England in July 2021, because COVID allowed us to save a little bit of money, because I wasn't doing drugs all the time. We were working a little bit, and we moved back, and we went on with Constant Talent Agency, which fantastic. Like David Oyston, I got so much respect for him at the time, and I always had. Like, it was an agency that I was.
Joanna.
I think she.
It was an agency we'd strive to get on.
Yeah. So we went on to that in July 2021. We moved back to England. Liam had already said no, like he was it. So I rang James, who's the agent at the time, and I was like, look, Liam doesn't want to do this anymore, but I still want to do it. Like, what are we going to do? So we were still going to bill it as the Willers brothers at the moment, because we had like 10 shows lined up. We had this tour of Australia, with South America. Like, it was all looking really good. Liam didn't want it. I knew like how much better my life was with drink and drugs, but at the same time, like, I still didn't have my sobriety like under control. Like, I wasn't still cemented with it. But in my head, I was like, I'm going to go and do all these gigs sober, and it's going to be this, you know, amazing career off the back of everything I've learned, you know, during the lockdowns. I went and did a gig in Nottingham, and got there. I was like, no drinks, not for me. I don't drink anymore. And then I started playing. I was like, oh, actually, I'll have one drink. And then next thing you know, I was having a line. Next thing you know, I woke up in hospital. I got this scar on my head here. Apparently, I got brought in by the police. I looked at my bank statement. I spent all my money on champagne in like an Oceana. So fuck knows what happened, but I just went from 0 to 100 and I just broke down in the hospital. I rang my dad. I was like crying my eyes out.
We was on a run. We was on a 10 mile in the
yeah,
car.
dad, yeah.
Fucking, my dad's like, you never guess what's happening.
Yeah, well, you bet you guessed straight away. Of course you did. And
so you've quit music. You're back in the UK, and what work did you go into when you moved back to the UK?
I was working at Gorillas, mate. Like, it was just a delivery grocery company. It was shit, but loads of people doing it. Yeah, mate. Loads of people doing it in Berlin, so it was dead cool. But it was running for me, mate. Like, Sean got me into running because he'd started running again, and that's one thing I'd never tried. And it's funny, we were actually going to get donuts, yeah, and the lights were changing. I ran across the road, and Sean said, "Mate, like, you got a good form, mate. Why don't you come running with me?" I was like, "Nah, mate, never been running, mate." And he was like, "Look, just come. There was a track near ours in Berlin for free." He said, "Just come down, mate." So I turn up in my like normal fucking going out shorts and like my normal trains. He's like, "What the fuck are those?" He's like, "You need some running shoes." And that, I was like, "What do you mean running shoes? What are you on about?" And then, mate, we did a 5K, mate. It took me about 40 minutes. I was huffing and puffing, but I was like, you know what, I can do it, man. And then I just started going down on my own. Yeah. And running for me, that was the game change. That was my click in my brain that thought, man, I can fucking do it, man. I can work on myself to start small and build into it. And then when we moved back to England, I was working at Gorillas, but I was really just going like deep into the running.
But one thing I've noticed of you being around you, you've had like, I know you worked in the city as a chef in the stock exchange, and I've noticed that one thing you always say is how happy you are working a job that just pays you a nice salary, but as long as you've got the fresh food, you're out running.
The routine, man. Like for me, if your routine's slipping, like for all these people that say, "Oh, my job takes all my time and I don't have any time for yourself," well, it's probably not the right job to do, because that time to yourself and your routine, that's precious time. Do you know what I mean? That's like your self-development time. And if you don't even have time for that and it's making you miserable, then why are you doing it? What are you even getting the money for? Because you're still going to be in that job, which means you're not even going to spend the money on doing stuff you enjoy because the job's holding you back.
Absolutely.
So there's no money in the world now. If I said, right, I can get you a DJ gig, it's 20 grand back to back, what would you do?
I'm good, mate.
You're done.
I mean, there's probably a price. Everyone has a price.
How much you talking?
Like we've been offered gigs. It's not my interest, man. Like what I'm doing with Sean. Like if you want to explain a bit about maybe.
Yeah. So let's
where Sean's got, because like for me, like my journey was just going back into normal life, but then I really got into running, mate, and that was like a massive cured my depression, cured my anxiety, got me off a complete drug addiction, even stopped me smoking weed. That was the pinnacle. And from going from 10 joints a day, and I was like, this ain't going to help my running. I want to improve my running. I'm going to have to fucking just bite the bullet and do it, mate. Just chucked all my stuff away and stopped, mate. Hardest thing I've done that was quitting the weed. But I did it. I was like, fuck it, man. I'm not making an excuse anymore. I want to improve my running journey, and this ain't doing me any good.
Yeah, I've been around you a lot. I don't see you have down days. Every time you're around, when you come to Uganda, etc., you just seem to uplift everyone you're around.
I just try be more positive mindset. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I used to have a lot of down days, but I think like all the self-development I've done, it's definitely helped my mindset. You can vouch for me there.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I used to be very negative, mate. Like, especially with Sean, I'd always rebel and just like he couldn't tell me anything and all that. But I think it's working on myself, being happy within my own.
So where would you say you are in your journey now? So 0 being kind of rock bottom Berlin, staying on the floor in Sean's house, to 10. Where would you say you are on your journey now?
I'm fucking flying on some things, like especially like my fitness journey is like going boom, boom, boom. Like I'm progressing massively on there, but there's still a few things like socially, career, and there's still a few little aspects that I kind of need to iron out. Like I just find my social aspect now is quite hard. Like, I don't really.
You said earlier on the walk, actually, like me, you haven't got that many friends around you, but you choose not to have that many
it's just
friends.
Because I don't know where I kind of fit. Like, I'm so far away from where I used to be, but I'm not quite the person that I want to be. But to be honest with you, mate, I'm quite a simple guy. Like, I just love fucking bodybuilding. I love running, and I just eating. I love getting up at 5 a.m. and getting out and working on myself. Somebody asked me a good question. They're like, "So what do you do with your time? Like, if you don't go out, mate?" I said, work on my bulletproof mindset. I want to be a machine. I want to wake up at 5 and be able to smash a 10 mile. I want to go in the gym. I want to be bench pressing heavy. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to just be mediocre.
But the thing is, if we'd got Liam in this room like 5 years ago, you'd never ever believe it. If you had a
picture of me when I looked like Winnie the Pooh, do you know what I mean? Like, I was like,
we can edit a photo into this one.
But that's the thing, mate. I was like at my heaviest. I was 135 kilos, addicted to coke. I had a binge eating disorder I didn't even tell Sean about. Like, it was a binge eating disorder I couldn't get rid of, mate. I'd go out at the weekend, I'd get really fucked up, and then I would just binge eat, mate. There was a time in London when I used to get this, what I get from the takeaway, 2 Domino's pizza to myself with 4 sides. I'd smash through that, mate. 2 Domino's large pizzas, all gone, mate. I'd lay in bed all day, then I'd be in the shop, sweets, mate. I was just putting on weight, and if you looked at me there and you looked at me now, you'd think, fuck, mate, how did you do that? But you know what I did? I didn't look at the end goal of I want to be like, I broke it down into small little chunks. I was happy to run 20 minutes. I was happy to do small little chunks, and then they built up to bigger goals. And I was like, you know, I ran a sub 4-hour marathon for my first marathon from somebody that never ran in their life. Do you know what I mean? That for me at the time, I was like, I should have done 3:30. But when I look at it now, I think that was a massive achievement.
So, your turn to talk now, Sean. So we obviously were sat here with the Willers brothers, Liam, Sean, who I really got close with you on my personal fitness journey. My story, I don't need to go into it now because we're going to save this one for a much bigger podcast. My story is similar to these, very similar to these, but I was completely in a fucking terrible place a few years ago. Rock bottom, coke addiction. I wasn't a drinker, but my go-to was cocaine. But I would never do cocaine without drinking because I was a terrible dry sniffer. I'd stand there and I wouldn't want to talk to anyone. But obviously I've had a couple of cocktails and I was the worst cokehead. I was the loudest one in the room. And when they say the loudest one in the room is the weakest one in the room, I was the weakest one in the room. And now when I see people backstage, I see myself and people I wish I could just go and take him away and be like, mate, you don't. But anyway, everyone's on their own journey. I don't know how we got in contact. We've always been friends, but I can't remember how we ended up reaching out. But I did unblock him to
you unblocked me too.
But no,
I can't remember.
I was your first client.
You were the one that really helped me build what my brand is now.
And your brand is, for the
Willers
guys
Fitness,
that don't know.
Yeah. So what happened is that when we started a journey, once we left DJing, I went into a job, but then I had a Willers Brothers Instagram page, so I started turning this into a fitness page, just documenting my journey from obviously addiction and body transformation. I got a lot of people reaching out to me, but it wasn't anything. It was just me giving advice, and then you messaged me. I can't remember. I don't think it was out of the blue, but you messaged me. You said, "Look, write a program out for me, and I'll follow it, and then I'll put some posts out as well." I'm not even sure if you said that. You just started doing it off the back, because that's the sort of guy you fucking are at the end of the day, Kai. You just started putting it out there and putting some nice stuff about like the journey you were having, which was, obviously
the best shape I've ever been in my life.
Exactly. And then when that happened, a lot of people started to reach out to me then because they'd seen the journey you'd had, and I started to build like this business that's Willers Fitness, which
But you were doing that while you had a full-time job.
Yeah,
mate.
I was.
He was working as a PE teacher, mate. He was going. He was waking up early. Bear in mind, he had half his clients he was just doing as a favour.
Yeah.
And he was smashing out work, mate. He was getting home from work. He was doing all working right up to the evening, and then the same again every single day, like building it, man.
Yeah. So
this was when? This was 2020.
2022, I think.
This was, I think,
April.
I just found out that basically been fucked and lost
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, that's when you were in a bad
yeah,
place.
yeah,
And Sean,
yeah.
Sean said to you, well, why don't you come on board, mate? We'll fucking get your head in a good
Yeah.
space. We'll do that transformation.
This
And that's
is
when
only
you
2
guys
years
got...
ago.
I
Yeah,
know,
that's
I know. But obviously, I'd see, you know, when we were talking, I see so much in your journey, like through myself and vice versa. And that's why it worked, because I thought, you know, you'd had your own problems with addiction and you know, social anxieties and all that stuff, you know, that I had suffered with as well. Obviously, working in the music industry, and what I'd sort of developed over time was like this foundation that worked for me. I thought, let's give it a go, and it worked the same for you. And then and then I started developing Willer's Fitness. You know, more people started to come on board, and I come out to Ibiza for a few days, and if I'm honest, Kai, I think it was really inspiring. Like, obviously, I'd helped you at the time, but then speaking to you and getting to meet you more often really inspired me from all the businesses you've created. Bearing in mind all the shit you've had to put up with and deal with, and still, you know, nothing would ever put you down. I thought, you know what, I can see some potential in Willer's Fitness as well. And then in August 2022, I basically had the choice of going back to the school full time for another year, or just leaving and giving it a go with Willer's Fitness, and that's what I did. And then I started the business, and then come out to Uganda, and then when I was out in Uganda,
I think that was a good game
that was
changer.
massive
You got
for
a
me.
lot of some clients that are still on
Well, it
board
wasn't
now.
just that, but obviously getting to spend a lot more time with
Yeah,
you
yeah.
and seeing all these amazing people and what you
It
created over
inspired
there.
you that.
Oh,
When
man,
you come back from there, you were like,
I was just like,
boom, your mindset was like, mate, like
anything is possible. I think what I got from it more than anything, and it's helped me.
Humbles you, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it reminded me of like when I first started DJing and like all that time. What we were doing was putting in the fucking work. Do you know what I mean? We had a vision, we had a dream for something. We put in the work, and I applied that same, you know, sort of work ethic into Willer's Fitness, and that's why it's grown to what it is now. And then I come out here and I spent time in Ibiza for the winter, you know, in this fucking beautiful place, which for me was massive because I'd only ever known Ibiza for getting fucked up. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was it. And I come and I spent, you know, 4 months out here sober, apart from that one occasion with which maybe we'll go into. Anyway, with but anyway, I've just worked really hard then.
So you've gone from me being a first client, then you took on quite a lot of clients,
a lot of people,
and then I know you were working in a running shop,
specialist
shop selling. Did you enjoy that job?
To be fair, mate, when it was busy, I fucking loved it.
This is what I'm saying. Every job you've had, you fucking love, and it's great.
Because I'm quite a people person, man. So like, and I'm quite, because I was so enthusiastic about running at the time. Where the customer come in, mate, I'd just be like, boom, here
running
we go.
gigs.
Mate. Especially if they were like a keen runner, mate. Oh, mate, I'd just be chatting and chatting. Like, I could chat running all day.
So when did you decide that you were going to employ your brother? Because it's quite a risky thing.
So you were working. We were working together anyway. Like Liam was already working with a business, helping me out. Do you know what I mean? We were already creating, because we knew the vision.
The thing is, we were living the life. We were both up at 5. We're both stretching together. We're both eating whole foods. We're both fasting, and we're both getting the same results. Do you know what I mean? We knew that the foundation, we know that it works, and we was like, you know, we wanted to share that with other people.
So you come on board, but then we wanted to move back to London, just for, you know, so many reasons, but we didn't want to have the financial pressure first, just because, you know,
we didn't want it to be like the Willers brothers. That was the thing. We didn't want that. You know, it's very much Sean's baby. It's not mine. Like, I work for Sean, and obviously I'm a part of it, but I didn't want, as well as Sean, I didn't want to put that pressure on him. I thought, you know what, we spoke about, I said, well, I'll just go into full-time work while you build the business. And that's when I worked at the stock.
So how many clients now, if you don't mind, you don't have to disclose this, how many clients do you think you've got now between you?
We've got we've got a fair few. Just to go back to that though, what happened is that then in January this year, that's when I said to Liam, like, just because we wanted to build the business, but the thing is, this is such a personal journey for me. The only one person that really understands this is Liam, because he's been there side by side with me, and he's living his life, and he's had his own fucking incredible journey as well. So then in January, I was able, you know.
You said to me, like, when I got back from Uganda, you said, look, Liam, mate, the business is either going to, like, I'm at like a cap now. And I really want to bring you back on board. Like, do you work? Because I really love my job at the stock exchange. Like, I was doing really fucking well there. And he said, look, mate, I really want you to like leave the job there and come on board. And I was like,
with that Uganda trip change, you opened
and
your
then,
eyes
and then
as
when I
well,
got
didn't
back
it?
from Uganda, I was like, actually, man, like spending time with you and even like people like Sean Brandt and, you know, like a lot of like really, and you, Emily, and like a lot of influential people. And I was like, actually, man, like I'm only going to be stuck in that sort of the workhorse of the sort of rat race in the kitchen job. As much as I enjoy it, I thought this is working with my brother on something that we lived. You know what I mean? I was like, let's do it, man.
So what's the future looking like for the Willis brothers? What if I said to you now, what's your 5-year plan? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time as the Willis Fitness, Liam and Sean? You know, where do you see yourself being?
So I think really what we, more than anything in terms of like what we want to do, is we just want to keep getting that word out to as many people as possible.
And that word is?
That life without drink and drugs, through working on the way you look and the way you feel, is going to be a fucking million times better than it is with even a little bit of drink and drugs in at the weekend. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone can achieve so much more than what they think is possible if you just start to apply a few foundations. And I think that's really what I see with the business at the moment in terms of like growth and finances and all that. Like
that comes secondary.
Yeah, that's not even a thing.
It's not really about like it's not a business of how much money can be made or anything. It's about how many people can you help, how many people can you influence to change their life like we have. Because like for my journey, if somebody had told me 3-4 years ago that I would run a sub 4-hour marathon, yet alone even a marathon, yet alone a 5K, I would have laughed in the face. And to actually, the thing is with like the marathon itself, like it's not even the marathon, it's the work you put in before. And for me, being part of this business, it's about always developing myself. And I only want to work alongside Sean this business if I'm putting in that practice myself as well. If I'm living that life. I don't want to tell somebody and be a hypocrite and say do this, but not actually live that life myself.
Well, I'm really conscious of time now because we're going to try and wrap this up in an hour. It's our first podcast, but what I want to say is I've only known you 3 or 4 years, and every time I'm around you, like we done a 10K run this morning,
and it was beautiful.
It was
man.
beautiful.
It was, honestly,
I thought you were going to cry. I got quite emotional.
Mate, it was, honestly,
but they say
when we were putting in the pace,
and
mate,
there's something. It's a bit corny, but they say your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah, so
and
true, man.
you know, I'm on a sober journey now. I'm coming up to 9 months.
I'm
incredible. Not, you know, I don't think it should be telling them to go sober because it isn't always the answer.
No, you are
there are
right
people
there,
that can dip in and out. And do you know
and,
what?
And to be fair, like I'm going to be totally transparent here. There has been times where I've been dipped in and out, but I'm not like. That's why it's good with me and Sean because we have different dynamic. He's like an all or nothing drunk where it ruins his whole life. It never really ruined my life, but it ruined me as a person.
So what would you say? We're going to wrap this up now. So if you could give advice for me personally, so the advice I give to people now when they come to me is smash your 20s is your time to party. I loved it. I had the best time of my life. I took a lot of drugs, great drugs. I went to the best parties, the best after. I wouldn't change a thing. What I would have changed is at 30, I wish I'd have known what I know now and started investing, started being a bit more sensible with my money. But the universe has obviously brought us all back to a full circle where we are now. Excuse me. So what advice would you give to any kind of 18, 19, 20, 25-year-old that is watching this podcast, is currently struggling, doesn't know where they want to go, got a drink and drug problem? I'll let you go first. We've got a minute each.
No, mine's simple, and it's don't give up on yourself. Like, don't give up on yourself. Like, no matter how far the goal might seem, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Like, just don't give up. Like, believe in yourself. Like, you know, if you want to achieve something, you can do it no matter how big or small it is. And that's just don't give up on yourself. Because,
wicked.
You know,
and yourself.
To be honest, mate, it's exactly the same. You know, it really is. It's just
because if we give up on ourselves, mate, we'd be fucked now. That's the thing. Like, we were in a bad place. Especially like our relationship was broke down. Everything was really, really bad.
I agree.
Wicked. Well,
And thanks for getting us on.
Yeah,
you've honestly been such a big inspiration for like Sean and myself, and you've become one of my closest friends, and I think Sean can take the
Yeah,
same.
absolutely,
And
bro.
everything you've been through, it's inspiring. Going out to Africa and seeing what you've built there, mate, honestly had me in tears. Like seeing what you've done as a person. People don't do that, and you're an amazing guy. And thanks for having us on.
Thank you. I've both got you both a present, so I'm going to start first with you, mate, because I know how bad your toes are. So I've got you an Ibiza set of nail clippers. These are limited edition, and you can only get these in Ibiza. And for you, Sean, because I know how much you love your food, you've got a fridge magnet. Just so every time you're looking at it, you think back to this podcast.
Love
mate.
that, mate. Thank
So,
you, brother. Thank
I
you,
hope you
man.
guys enjoyed our first ever Full Circle podcast. I enjoyed every second of it. I wasn't nervous, but I was a little bit worried about like kind of how's this going to flow. I think it's flowed pretty well. I've got some amazing guests lined up, totally different to these guys. Some famous, some you won't even know, but each and every single one of these people has got an inspiring story. And I really, really hope that everyone watching this is inspired, and I wish you nothing but the best in life and sending nothing but love. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel on Spotify and on YouTube. Big love, guys, and I'll see you all in Ibiza.